Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, let's talking about this Houston mayoral race that Representative Sheila Jackson Lee is involved in, where she put out a campaign ad with the wrong date for the election. Question is it going to make a big issue? Is it a big deal for voters? We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, Philadelphia is talking about moving forward on banning ski masks in public places. Yes, folks, those masks with just the eyes open and just the mouth is open. Yeah, they're looking to ban ski masks in public places, saying it is an effort to prevent crime in some areas of Philadelphia. My question is this a good idea? I want to get your take on it. And then later on, we check in with Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness as we talk a little bit about this latest study that shows that racism is a huge factor for Black women in getting heart issues. That's one thing. Also, we're going to talk about MJ BizCon. That's right, the marijuana cannabis national conference for marijuana and cannabis. As Black entrepreneurs have descended on Las Vegas to try to figure out what they can do to get a piece of that pie. So we'll have that conversation and a whole lot more. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. We got a lot to talk about. But before we do, let's go ahead and let's just officially welcome the online culture crew that's checking in from all around the country. Y'all know how we do. There we go. Yep, the culture crew, folks. This is our group of folks, watchers who chime into the conversations that we have. And folks, you could be a part of the ongoing on the illustrious culture crew. Just check us out on Roland Martin's YouTube page where we're streaming live on there. And I see folks are checking into the chat right now. Big shout out to the crew. Ming Lee, Natasha Surge. Ming Lee, thank you so much. Checking back in. I love to see it. Love to see it. Thank you so much. Kira's house, I see you. Pastor Damon Blissett, my brother. Man, don't watch out for Pastor Damon. Don't come into the chat with a bunch of nonsense. You will be blocked by the block church. Pastor Damon, thank you so much. Brother Willie, good to connect with you once again. I hope you had a great afternoon, a great day and great weekend, Brother Willie. Who else we got in here? I'm seeing my sister Karen Connor, as always, checking in from the great city of Los Angeles. My sister Janelle Fields. Hey there, Janelle. Can't wait to hear what you got to say on these topics. My brother Conscious Thought, thank you so much for checking in. Good afternoon to you, big brother. Deidre Hall, I see you. Thank you for checking in. Tiana, I connect with you once again. Hey, Tiana. Hey, McCole Lewis. Good to connect with you once again. And as y'all come into the chat room, do me a big favor. Just hit that like button. Just hit that thumbs up button for us so that way we can get the algorithms going on the fact that the culture is now straight. Yeah, how about that? Also, folks, we're streaming live on our home website at blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you go to our website today. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media at blackstarnetwork.com. But more importantly, please give something to help us continue to power us through this digital movement, this digital space that we're in as we look to change the culture, the content, and a whole lot more. So just go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com, and we truly, truly thank you for your support. Also, we are streaming live on Amazon News and your Amazon Fire TV. You can also find us on Amazon Prime Video, and it's on the Amazon Prime Video app under Live TV, The News. Or find us at Amazon.com under Prime Video, Live TV, The News, and you can find us there. We're also on Freevee on now and under News. You can find us there, and on Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network on Plex and find us under Live TV, News, and Opinion. Okay, let's do this. How about this? Big story. Wanted to share this and talk with you about because I think y'all are fantastic people. So I know y'all got a lot to say about this. First story out of Houston, Texas. And if you're down in Houston, for all of my Houston watchers, Just know the election is actually December the 9th, folks. It is December the 9th. The big election for Houston's mayoral election is December the 9th. Well, unfortunately, this was not the message that was sent out by Congresswoman Representative Sheila Lee Jackson's campaign. They had a beautiful ad to talk about what she plans to do as Houston's mayor, next mayor. Beautiful ad talking about the experience she has, only to give the wrong date. My question is, do you think this is going to be a big deal? Around the country, people are talking about it and say, oh, this is another sign of incompetence. Oh, this is going to be a problem. Before all of my voting advocates that's in the chat this afternoon, do you think this is a big deal? First, let's take a look at the ad and let me know what you think.
Houston, I've spent my entire career fighting for you. From fighting to keep our kids safe from guns when I was on city council, to my days in Congress fighting to protect women's reproductive freedom, and for funding for our police, schools, and small businesses. Now I'm running to be your mayor, because if we're going to bring down crime, fix our streets, and bring good-paying jobs here, then Houston needs a champion who's ready to fight for what's right. And I am.
Well, I'm glad that you're willing to fight what's right, Madam Congresswoman. But how did something like this happen, folks? December the 7th was what the ad posted, but the runoff election is actually December the 9th. That means this Saturday is the actual election. How did this happen? Let me just tell you why I'm asking this question. Because if I was Congresswoman Sheila Lee Jackson, Sheila Jackson Lee, if I was her, fired a whole production team. Fired a whole production team. There's no way. There's no way. Pastor Damon, you kicked it off. You kicking us off with this afternoon. I couldn't agree with you more. There's some things that you can kind of fudge and kind of miss, but the wrong date. And see, when you're in a production, folks, when you're talking about filming and editing and all of that stuff that's required for production, you have so many eyes on this piece of work, on this product, that it's just crazy. Now I can get it. Sometimes you're watching something, you ever done a project or like a major writing project or something, and you're reading this thing so many times that your brain starts to think one thing, but in reality something else is actually on the page. It could have been a human error. Obviously it was human error. But as you say, Brother Damon, you have to be accurate about things like that. You just gotta be. At the final viewing, somebody should have said, hey, December the 7th. Now, I gotta take a quick pause when we come forward. I'm asking the question, will this be a big deal though? Now, of course, politicos around the country are gonna be like, oh my gosh, she put the wrong date. And it's embarrassing, considering the fact that this is a major election, considering you're running for office to show people that you have all of your ducks in a row. Some people, and for some voters, folks, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news in this case, but for some people, it only takes one small mistake. It only takes one issue like this, and a person will be totally turned off from voting for them. In 2023, going into 2024, people have no tolerance for incompetence. People have no tolerance for somebody that has, oh, we messed up on this. Now, I'm going to share this with you very quickly. On the other, or along with this, her campaign has been somewhat struggling in the, how can I say, the hospitality department, because there was some leaked audio of Sheila Jackson Lee just going in on a volunteer or a staffer using the F-bomb, dropping that all over the place, and making some unkind insults to the person that she was speaking to. Now, of course, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee said that she apologized. This is not who she is, and all of those things. But it just adds to it. I know it might seem small, and I think it does seem small. To me, I understand that we all make mistakes, but when you're trying to get people to invest in you and seeing you as a leader, seeing you as a trusted servant, Small things make a big difference. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let me get your take on what you think of this ad putting out the wrong date for the election. Do you think it's a big deal? Will it be a problem for voters down in Houston, Texas? We'll have to have that conversation. Stay with us. That's going to be happening on the other side on this. We're just getting started right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We've been talking about just a little situation with the campaign of Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, who put out an ad for her run to become Houston's next mayor. And the ad looks good. It feels good. It sounds good, all the way until you get to one frame where the ad said that the election is on December 7th, when in reality, the election is on December the 9th. Ooh, how does something like this happen? More importantly, is it going to be a big deal for the voters who are going to the polls on Saturday? Can they look past it? We will have to see. But let me get your take on this, crew, as we talk a little bit about this. I'm loving what Pastor Damon is saying, man. Pastor Damon, you are an engineer, so y'all, you know the importance of details and double checking the details. And then, like you said that is why, Farajii, you checker and back checkers. I do as an engineer. We have to be accurate, Farajii. Absolutely. You got to have, like they say, lawyers looking at other lawyers looking at lawyers. You got to have checkers upon checkers. When certain messages come out. Now, will you be perfect? No. Will you catch everything? No. But for this, It just leaves a bad, somewhat of a bad taste. But like for me, like I don't expect politicians to have it all together. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I don't expect when I see this, I'm like, it's embarrassing, but it's not a game changing like moment that says, well, this person is completely like I'm not in that space, but I do recognize that there are some people who are. And it's not that they necessarily are caught up on the small things, but they're just simply caught up on the fact like Nicole Smith, like what you said. You said if you can't get the ad right, how are you going to run the city? I mean, some people could say, oh, well, that's a small thing, Nicole Smith. No, she could run the city. It's just a human error. But again, folks, this is not something that like a social media post where you just posted it in haste. This is a whole ad, right? Like whole ad, especially if you're trying to get people to become more politically engaged. And I get it. If she was just the only person responsible for putting out this message, I would be like, all right, fine. But in a production where you have director, cameraman, editors, you have volunteers and staff, volunteers and staff members who are part of her team overlooking the production. You have all of these people, and then you have her herself, the representative, the congresswoman herself looking at this, because they all got to put some eyes on this before it goes out to the public. So you got all of these people looking, and nobody picked up on it. Nobody picked up on it. Is it a big deal? Let me see who else is going to say. Who else got something to say? Um, Everybody's also talking about the fact that who you cussing out, right? Because that's coming. Somebody's getting cussed out. Somebody's getting cussed out. But how far can you get cussed out if you yourself didn't pick up on it? You can't really cuss anybody out. That's the sad part. This is one of those moments where you can't even really cuss anybody out because it wasn't like it by the time it got to you, you were like, we got to do this thing completely over. You got blah, blah, blah. We're not putting this out to the public. It's been put out to the public. Now, if you start cussing people out, then you're going to look sillier because you didn't pick it up yourself. All right, my sister Lana. Lana checking in as always. Lana said, my opinion is based solely on her track record, and this ad is a reflection of her legacy. All these black politicians can look at their districts as proof of their performance. That alone is a thumbs down. Woo. Mm, mm, mm. That's a tough one. That's a tough pill to swallow there, Lana. But I appreciate you mentioning it. Karen, my sister, you said election dates must be communicated accurately. No excuse. She should have hired a quality control person with 5 people signing off to confirm the accuracy before release. A bad first impression. Wow. Wow. Absolutely. Absolutely. My brother Damon, you said Farajii, we kept BSN, black was wrong or misspelled items in the description from time to time. And that's right. You do. And that's why I tell you, if y'all see something crazy right here, like right here, y'all see something real crazy, and you like, man, that don't look like they spelled the person's name right. Just call me out on it, and we'll get the team behind the scenes to take care of it. Because we do not want to, and I get it, folks. And trust me, I get it. But this is one thing that, and y'all tell me if y'all ever heard this, and I'm going to take another pause. One thing that I've learned about service to people, but more importantly, black people, as crazy as it might sound, as double standard as it is, when you go before black people, you have to have all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted. I've recognized that. I've recognized that. And if you don't, right, and someone calls you out on it, then you just got to take the hit, get humble, and make the correction, right? Yeah, you're right. That was a mistake on our part. Boom, my fault. So that's the thing I've learned about black people. Now, do we scrutinize white people as much as we scrutinize ourselves? To a degree, but do we announce, express it? No, not quite. No. If McDonald's gets your order wrong, we're never saying, man, you know what? McDonald's, I'm never going to McDonald's because of that poor service. You know what we say? I'm never going to that McDonald's. I'm going to go to the other McDonald's down the street. So it's a double standard. It's not necessarily fair, but it is a criteria. It is something that we as Black folks, as part of our culture, we have become very much like that. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Who else has got something to say? Nicole, you said still going to vote for her tomorrow. The real, for real, last day of early voting. All right, so Nicole, you're in Houston. And I'm wondering, Nicole, post something in the chat. Tell us what's the sentiment. If you heard about this, is this a big story down in Houston? Is this a thing that is deterring people from coming out to vote on Saturday or even for the early voting period? I would love to get your thoughts on that. Share your thoughts since you're down there in Houston, and any other crew member that's down in Houston. Tell me, like, is this a big deal or is this just like some national political talk that really doesn't have any? It's not a big issue. Let me know. Let me see something here. Conscious thought, my brother, you said accuracy in advertising, electorally, or in business is imperative. It denotes detail and competence. My election location has changed 3 times in 3 years, even though I lived at that same address all 3 years. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Conscious thought. Accuracy in advertising, whether you're talking about politically or in business, it is imperative. It is imperative. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, right? That, something as major as an election, you don't know you don't put out the proper date. And again, this is not like saying that she doesn't know, but whoever was doing the work behind the scenes, they need to be fired. They need to be pulled up on. They need to be fired or pulled up on. Nicole, you also said all Black people used to have pride in their work. We still do. Well, why you say we used to? We still got pride in our work. I mean, things happen, human error occur, but you're right. I think a lot of us still do have pride in our work, right? But I think the expectations have to be like handled and balanced, right? Because just as much as, my joke, some of us want Jesus in the White House. We want Jesus in the office. And so we have these high expectations that a lot of our Black political leaders can't match that. They can't meet those high expectations. So we have to kind of like, all right, let me bring my expectations down. And then they have to step up and let's see where we can meet in the middle. So I think that's the big thing. So, hopefully this is not going to be a deterrent from people coming out to vote, people not knowing what day it is. Folks, Saturday, December the 9th is runoff election for the Houston mayoral race. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee is there. So I hope this is an deterrent. Nicole, you down in Houston, you said this is the first time that you've heard about this. So I'm glad that you're hearing about this here, but just know that it might come up in the next couple of days leading up to the election as part of a discredit campaign to try to discredit a Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, trying to make her look like she's incompetent and don't know, and she's not paying attention to the details. Just know that it's happening. All right, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, folks, let's have another conversation as we shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about the Philly City Council, how their vote to ban ski masks, all types of ski masks in public places. Do you think that's a good idea? We're going to have that conversation up next. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the city of Philadelphia as they're moving forward to try to figure out creative ways to at least to address the culture of violence in the city, in the country's sixth largest city. Philadelphia is under a spiking violent crime. Like a lot of cities are actually at this point. Some folks say it's a post-pandemic trend. Other folks are saying that because of COVID, there was a lot more disparity that has been exposed, and as a result of that, crime has gone up. But one of the things that the Philly City Council is trying to do is trying to at least address a cultural thing more so than a policy thing. And so I think it's very interesting to have a conversation about this idea of ski masks. And so now Philadelphia has moved forward to ban ski masks in public spaces like schools, recreation centers, parks, city-owned buildings, and on public transportation. Yeah, folks. Yeah, they're trying to shut it down. And guess what? I like it. I like it. I think it's actually a good idea. I'm going to share with you my thoughts, but I wanted you to post your comments as we stream it live on Roland Martin's YouTube page and let me know what your thoughts are. But let me share with you how this whole thing went down, what the final vote ended up being. The legislation was passed on Thursday of last week and take a look at this. This is coming out of the Associated Press. The legislation passed on Thursday with a 13-2 vote and now goes to Democratic Mayor Jim Kenney. A spokesperson said he would review the legislation and looks forward to our ongoing work with City Council on the urgent matter of ensuring public safety, quote unquote. The measure would ban ski masks on balaclavas. Never knew that was a term for those ski masks, but that's the official term. In public spaces like schools, recreation centers, parks, city-owned buildings, and on public transportation. It defines the garment as a close-fitting covering over the whole head with holes only for the eyes, nose, or mouth. A $250 fine would be imposed against anyone who violates the law. It has exceptions for religious garb and protest. Is this a piece of good legislation, folks? As they look to ban ski masks. Here's why I think this is a good idea. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And Hollywood has branded that mask, and Lisa and Maddie, if we can, we just need to figure out. Let me just show the photo when if you could post the photo when you grab one. But every time I see that mask, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm thinking robbery. I'm thinking harm. I'm thinking somebody about to do some wild stuff. I'm sorry. So if you're at like a gas station or a 7-Eleven and I see you with a mask on, I can't see your features other than your eyes and your mouth. Guess what Farajii Muhammad about to do? Guess what I'm about to do? I'm about to walk out. You know what? I don't. If you coming in the store look like this, and some of us, man, y'all ever seen some of these young boys and these young girls in the hood wearing this? Be like 90 degrees. It's not even ski mask weather. No more COVID restrictions. Man, please. I'm as they say, I'm different. I'm gone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, not sorry. I'm not thinking. Look, I'm not doing it. I'm definitely not doing it. I'm gone. I'm gone. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I'm survival skills, folks. 101. You don't stick around a situation that can get real crazy. It can get very crazy. Look, I gotta take a quick pause. When we come forward, let me hear your take on this. Am I crazy? I think this is a good idea. And here's why. It's a cultural thing. This is not about anything else. This is a cultural thing. This is a cultural thing. And let me throw a little something in there in a pot as we talk about this. And I want y'all to think about this over break. Is it racial? Is this an attempt to racialize the behavior of black boys and girls, particularly black boys who wear stuff like this just on GP? They just come in the joint. They may not have no harm. They don't have no intent, but they just come in there and hanging out with their homeboys and they throw the ski mask on. What y'all thinking? Post your comments in the chat. We'd love to hear what you got to say. And of course, stay tuned. We're going to take a quick pause and we'll return right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been chatting about how Philadelphia City Council has recently voted, just last week, they voted 13-2 to the idea of banning ski masks, right? Ski masks. I'm talking about the mask that covers your whole features except your eyes or covers your mouth. In some cases, the ski mask sometimes even covers your mouth. And so this is an effort to try to curb the latest spike in violence in Philadelphia. And now this particular resolution moves forward to getting approved and signed on by the mayor of Philly, Jim Kenney. My question is this thing a good piece of legislation? Do you think there's some racial components to this? I want to get your takes, so post your comments on the chat as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page. Here's my thing, folks. I think this is a good piece of legislation for two reasons. One, ski mask, if you're not, and I know it gets cold in Philadelphia. I'm from the East Coast, so I know it gets cold. But sometimes, I'm sorry, blame Hollywood. Ski masks are associated with outside of skiing. That's why we call them ski masks. Outside of being on the slopes, somebody walks into a space and they got a ski mask on, you automatically assume that they about to rob the place. They about to cause harm. They about to commit some violence and some violation. I'm sorry. Blame it on Hollywood, y'all. Blame it on Hollywood. So that's one. But here's the other thing. This is more of a cultural thing more so than anything else because I think it gets people to be much more aware and conscious about the role that they play in creating a culture of violence. Y'all ride with me. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. It's just the fact that some people, if people said, you know what, if I can act differently or if I can think more, be more conscious about how my actions affect another person, then we might be able to get somewhere around this conversation of violence. It's because everything can't be politicized. Everything can't be legislated, right? At the end of the day, I'm saying those of us who are in communities that are struck by violence, that have high crime rates. A lot of our people in this country, we live in violence, amongst violence, right? And we only hope and pray that the violence doesn't overtake our hearts and our minds and our spirits where we want to commit violence, right? But a lot of Black people live in these neighborhoods like that today, right? We call it the hood. We kind of make fun of it. We make light of it. But it's a violent place. And if the small thing of taking off a ski mask will help to change the culture, change the energy of death and violence in our community, I'm for it. I'm for it. It's a small thing. If the small thing that will cause people to think about their own participation in creating the culture of violence, I'm for it. We can't say, look, I want to live in a peaceful area, but we have violent tendencies. Come on, y'all. Come on, crew. Talk to me now. You can't say that. We can't say, oh, I want to live in a safe and decent neighborhood, but our tendencies, our culture, the music we listen to, the actions, the things we say, how we interact with one another, everything has this is charged with violence. And as Black people, if you grew up in this country as a Black person, you know, it doesn't take long for us to go from 0 to 100 in a violent manner. If somebody say you wrong, smack 'em. Somebody cut you off, take care of that. You know what I'm saying? If somebody steps on your foot by mistake, take care of that. Violence is so ingrained in our thinking, in our culture, that it's going to take some deprogramming to get out of that space. All right, let me just here share with so many of you are checking in. Man, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Again, I agree with this. I think this will at least get people to think twice about their own behavior. Cindy, you said, I hope no one is going skiing. They can't wear their hat until they get there, I suppose. Okay, that's true. That's true. They can't wear their hat. Sean Ryan, you said they should only ban them if it's too warm for ski masks. If the temperature drops, then you should be able to wear them. You can't prevent people from dealing with the elements. No. But when you go into stores, When you go into any public space, then you should be required to lift your ski mask, take your ski mask off your face. Come on, folks. Like, imagine if you were working in the store, right? Like, let's take that. Let's stand from this perspective. Imagine if you're working at a 7-Eleven, or your child or your neighbor or family member works at a place like a 7-Eleven or grocery store, or a gas station, or someplace like that, that is always prone to robberies, always prone to violence. How would you want that? How should they deal with this? Do you want them to? I know people say, "Oh, well, what about our rights?" But what about the person that's working in these places? Can you imagine you working in a place and then 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, somebody comes in and ski mask? You're already thinking, "Oh man, this is not going to end well." ABX girl, my sister, you said you cannot be fully covered in a bank, so it's the same. ABX girl, you also said, and I agree, I totally agree. You said something about, also, you said this at ABX girl, you said also in airports, TSA wants you to take everything off your face, such as sunglasses and masks, before you go through. Why shouldn't you? It's security. It's security. The ski mask, it is associated with being a bank robber. Y'all remember the Unabomber? He walked around with a hoodie and sunglasses and a mustache. Y'all remember him? George Kaczynski, I believe his name was. But that was his thing. Hoodie, sunglasses, and he walking around here. Yes, absolutely. Take everything off, especially in the airport. Come on, man. Come on. Kathleen Davis, you say it's 22 degrees in Inkster, Michigan. I'm from LA. That's what's up, Kathleen. You said now I know frostbite is a real thing when it's too cold to light a cigarette. Absolutely. 22 degrees in Inkster, Michigan. And like I say, if it's cold, I know it can get cold in Philly. I've been to Philly during the winter months. It can get extremely cold in that area. And I get that. But I think the thing is not to say you can't wear ski masks at all. It's just that in public places, lift the ski mask up. All right. Let's see here. Who else we got here? Let me see. Real Brooklyn, you said it's the attitude and disregard for the law. Banning masks isn't fixing these young punks' dysfunction. Oh, what's next? Timberlands or hip hop clothing? What they should ban is them damn skinny jeans. Okay, all right, Real Brooklyn. I hear you. I definitely hear you. Monkey Confessions, you say that black people are the only ones who are going to be targeted. Then no, this should be enforced in all communities. Actually, it is going to be enforced. It's a citywide ban, right? It's a citywide ban on the policy. Now, enforcement, that's going to be on police. That's going to be on businesses. That's what it is. See, again, just understanding how politics rolls and policy. You can have people, I mean, look, so what? So I bet you a lot of things that people do on a day-to-day basis, there is some law against it. There's a law against jaywalking. There's a law against spitting on the ground. There's a bunch of laws. And these laws are backed up by fines, $100 here, $200 there, right? But this is goes to show you it's about people's behavior. You cannot legislate people's behavior. You know what I'm saying? You can't. So the policymakers can only do so much. The enforcement come from the businesses. The enforcement will come from the community. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're talking to young black males who's walking around with ski masks, right? And all you need is 1 or 2 incidents with a police officer, whether that officer is white or black, and they get a call and they say, yeah, it was a young black male. I saw it through his eyes. He's wearing a ski mask. Now imagine if your son or your nephew or your grandson is walking with his homeboys, they got ski masks walking down the street just casually. And how many times have we heard of police having mistaken identity? But guess what? They all got ski masks on. So how do you know who is who? They all got ski masks on. Let me see this. Who is this? Arlene Starks, you said, and welcome to the chat, Arlene. You said it should be common sense to remove the mask when entering the store. You heard the old saying, Arlene, that sometimes the sense isn't always common. Yes, and I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. Who else is in? Percy Miracles, you said, how will you get tickets if the person wearing the mask don't have ID? That's not true that they don't have ID. See, again, we assume that just because you're wearing a ski mask that you're a part of a certain social space, a social status, right? That's not true. I've seen business people wear ski masks, right? We don't like if you see a businessman he might have a big overcoat on and he got a ski mask on his face, right? And it may not look like what you normally see, the type of ski mask. He might have a different type of cut to it or something, but it essentially covers his face and opens up his eyes. We have to like readjust to what we're seeing because we assume, oh, if you're wearing a ski mask, you must be poor, you must be black, you must be a criminal. The associations, and we cannot act as if that level of bias doesn't exist in people, folks. This is 2023. We all kind of working from different biases at this point, right? So we can't assume that. So I think that part of this, we wrap up this conversation, I think that it's important for us to at least think about this. Like if we talking about banning ski masks, we don't have to go so far. I think one of the crew members, one of y'all said, what's next, sunglasses and hoodies? No, it's not that. But sunglasses and hoodies doesn't carry the same brand. And I'm using this term lightly. It doesn't carry the same stigma. You can wear sunglasses and hoodies all day, but if somebody see you with a ski mask, here in LA, if you walk around in a ski mask, you can't go to West Hollywood and walk around with no ski mask on your face and go up in some store in West Hollywood. Man, please, sir, take off the mask. Oh, it's cold outside. Well, it's warm inside. Take off the mask. We'll leave the store. And here's the thing. We should keep people warm, but we shouldn't fight for people to have biases against us. We shouldn't hold on to those things. This is just my personal opinion. Y'all can agree or disagree. But we should not hold on to those things that may potentially put us in harm's way. I know it sucks. It's a double standard. It's not fair. Black folks shouldn't have to think like this. But guess what? This is the reality. Let's not work in from a space where we're like, oh, no, this is not fair. This is not fair. White people don't have to do this. Well, white people don't get killed by police just for looking at a cop wrong. White people aren't the target of racism every single day as much as we are. You see what I'm saying? Like, we got to put ourselves in a different place and face the reality. There's going to be a double standard. They are going to approach our boys and girls differently if they show up and looking like a certain thing, wearing certain clothes. We just got to figure out like, okay, all right. Does that mean we walk in fear? Do we hold our head low? No, we don't do that. But we do become aware that certain things still exist out there. And guess what? We have the power to change the culture, folks. We have the power to change the culture. I'm tired of us defending the worst elements of our expression, right? Just cause, and thinking the worst elements should be a part of the Black experience when it doesn't have to be. If the ski mask is a deterrent, if the ski mask is an impediment, if the ski mask is an indicator of violence and opens up the door for one of our little young brothers or little young sisters to be shot or killed or harmed in any way, bump the ski mask. Bump it. It's not that important. I'd rather see the person underneath the ski mask come home and not then worry about, oh man, that's an unfair law. No, bump the ski mask. If it's gonna save some lives, bump the ski mask. That's how I feel about it. And I know some of you may feel different, but it's okay. But it is happening in Philly, and hopefully the mayor will move forward on it. All right, folks, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's shift gears. Let's talk about health and wellness. We're going to be checking in with our resident doctor, Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, and to get her take on a big story around racism, folks. Yeah, racism. Did you know that there's a new study that shows that racism increases heart risk for Black women? We're also going to be talking to the doc about her visit to MJ BizCon, the Mary Jane Business Conference, and one of the largest national conferences on talk about the cannabis industry, and talk about what were some of the big discussions coming from there as Black entrepreneurs are looking to take a piece of that green pie. You like how I did that? Green pie? All right. All right, folks, stay with us. We still got a lot more to coming at you on the second half. Stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. And, man, this conversation about the whole Philly ski mask situation has really got a lot of people talking in the chat. It really got a lot of people talking. So we're going to let this just kind of put that on pause because I want to bring in our resident doctor. And I'm so happy that she's able to join us every Monday here on The Culture. We got Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. Let's check it out. Dr. Bridget, how are you? Good afternoon.
It's great to see you, Farajii. How are you?
I'm good. It seems like a lot of people are talking about this idea of banning ski masks. 30 seconds. Good idea or bad?
You cannot ban the ski mask, but we tend to be just generally a culture with very few regulations and rules on what people do. And, you walk into a building, you used to take your hat off. It was normal. It was polite. It was courtesy. You walk into a building, take off your ski mask. It just seems like the right thing to do, I guess, I mean, if it's just not common courtesy, people, even like it's also common courtesy to, if you're actually talking to someone face to face, to take off your sunglasses. Like you're not.
That is true.
You know what I'm saying?
That is true.
Lost the sense of what is polite, what is appropriate. We think everything should be, everybody can do just what they want to do and it, nothing matters. I kind of like the idea that, that if you go to certain restaurants, you're expected to wear a jacket. I'm not a big fan of people wearing house shoes as shoes. I just think there's certain things you should do and not do. It just gives a
I
little
agree.
bit of commonality and courtesy. So,
I agree. I love that answer. I just wanted to pick your brain for 30 seconds, but I totally agree. I think that we are in a culture that when people think of like personal standards, right? Personal grooming or personal behavior, it's like people get this uproar, and I'm part of me is like, but is it really bad? I mean, on the at the end of the day, like you said, wearing a jacket to certain restaurant, is that like, oh man, that's racist? Well, that's crazy, and it's like
they're trying to create an experience, and so you wear the jacket for everyone that's participating in the experience. As far as like taking your hat off, there's just certain things that are just common courtesy, and we've lost so much. They used to have to dress up to go to church. Now folks be showing up in.
Oh, you ain't gotta say it. You ain't gotta say it, Doc. I hear you. I see your face says it all. And Pastor Damon just said that. He said, Farajii, we are from a different generation. People are wearing hats in church now. Remember back in the day, your grandmother wouldn't even let you wear a hat in the house. You go into the house of the Lord and you rocking jeans. And I mean, it's one thing if it's just like family day at the church on a Saturday. But if it's Sunday and you going up in church with your hat on, your sunglasses on, ski mask on, hoodie on, your grandmother will whoop that ass.
Well, I mean, I do wish that sometimes that, I think it's funny now. I'm not saying we need to go back to everything we used to do, but, just, traveling this past week, it used to be if you were on an airplane, women showed up with hats and gloves and their best. I remember being a kid, and I think I was taking my first flight, and my mom said, we have to get your airplane outfit. And I remember that so clearly because in her head at that point of time, you had to wear a certain look or a certain outfit just to get on a plane. Now come in the pajama, and I don't go in pajamas. You will not find me in pajamas, people. I swear to God, but I am comfortable. Right. And I do. And I get it, but we have gotten so loose that a little manners wouldn't hurt anybody.
Some people get mad and say it's respectability politics. Like you're trying to police people' personal behavior. But I feel like from somewhere along the line, over the past 50 years, and there have been social science studies that have shown that certain behavior, decorum, class, these things have kind of fallen to the wayside now.
Yeah.
Right? And when you look at the pictures of Black folks, even back in, you don't have to go back to the 30s because we were always Dapper Dan down. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Wherever we went. But even in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the generation that my parents grew up in and your parents grew up in and all of that, like they had a certain class level. The women wore certain things, the men wore certain things. And I get it. Things have certainly changed and evolved. But to your point, it's okay to still have some semblance of standards.
Well, this is the thing that without standards, we don't create culture. People don't like to think of it like that. But is behaviors that we've all agreed upon to participate in, and it's not control, but that's how culture is created. And so if I told you right now, I'm going to a restaurant and I'm putting my purse on the floor, half the people in here will be like, oh my God, you don't put your purse on the floor. Because culturally, we have learned that is bad karma. It's bad karma. It's not socially appropriate to put your purse on the floor. Okay. There are just certain things that we do, and it's either looked frowned upon or it's looked in a positive manner. And if we don't have some semblance of behaviors that we all are willing to work with, we have just out of control, willy-nilly behaviors all over the place, which is kind of where we are now, which is why we get in arguments about wearing a hair bonnet, at the airport, because we've decided we are not going to conform to culture, right? We've decided that we're just going to do whatever we want when we feel like it, but there are issues that come along with that.
Absolutely. And we got to take another pause, and I think this speaks to the first part of the conversation, which is racism, and how it plays on our hearts and our thinking. But more importantly, the weight of racism on the body of Black people is something that we carry each and every day that we wake up. And those of us who find any level of success, whether it's financial success or career success or any type of success, who is able to ascend in this racist systems that we are part of, they have just learned how to navigate that weight a little bit differently than those of us who have not ascended to that, right? But it's still there. And I think that this is the part of the conversation of how we should be, somebody policing our personal behavior, somebody expectations of us, all of those things, they weigh on us. So I get it. So I think that the pushback that Black people have on decorum, standards, these ideas of class and being not, and all of that, is because for so long we have been under the thumb and the tyranny of somebody else's expectations that we just say, F it. I'm going to do me. I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and you can't do a damn thing about it. But here's the thing, and then we're going to take another pause. If we don't have a culture, to your point, Doc, if we don't have a culture to live up to, then what can we pass on to our children?
Absolutely. I agree.
You see what I'm saying? So if our children don't have a culture to live up to, a standard to live up to, whether it's knowing Black history, whether it's dressing a certain way, whether it's recognizing that you do exist in a separate double standard, your existence is different from your white counterpart, your Latino counterpart, then what do they have to hold on to? And then we leaving our children out there to create a new culture. They may not be able to have the strength to do.
I think the problem with this particular issue is, where is the mandate coming from, right? Because typically things that, and when I say culture, I'm talking about American culture, that, well, we're going to get rid of these, because if you're feeling like this American culture is now coming down on our Black culture, where the suggestion come from makes all the difference in the world, right? And so the problem is that it will affect us, but it'll affect everybody else. But we're being pinpointed in the situation, and this cultural standard is not coming from within, but it's coming from without. And because it's coming from the outside, we don't want to hear about it. I get it. But it's just, take it back a step. It's still just proper courtesy to take off your hat and to, I guess, now take off. I mean, I'm hoping, I don't want that much snow where you got to put on a ski mask. Personally, I don't want that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that much snow. We're not.
I'm done with you. I'm done with you right now. Look, I know you out and you've been moving to sunny places, Las Vegas, the West Coast. You know what I'm saying? So I know where that sentiment comes from, because you're like, you know what?
I'm not doing it
You're from the Midwest, so in Ohio. Please. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk a little bit about this new study that reveals that racism may increase the risk of stroke in Black women, folks. We'll have the doctor give us her expert opinion about this. And of course, we want you to join us in the conversation as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page. And that's where you can find our illustrious culture crew. So join us in the conversation right now. And of course, stay tuned. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by our medical expert, Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness, as we talk a little bit about a new study that shows that reveals that racism may actually increase the risk of Black women. This is according to a Boston University's Black Women's Health Study that found that Black women who perceived experiences of racism had a 38% chance of having a stroke compared to those who didn't.
Yes.
Doc, what is this about? Now we have a study. I'm not going to say this is the first time that the study of this nature has been done, but I'm saying that a lot of times when we have conversations about the impact of racism, people often think that racism is this kind of like unquantifiable thing. But now it's showing that it can be quantified, it has weight, it has a certain feel to it, and more importantly, it does do something to the body of Black people. So this is very interesting to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. And so they looked at about 48,000 Black women over a 22-year period. Okay, so they took 1997 to 2019. They followed these women. None of them had cardiovascular disease or cancer, any of the like, when the study began. Okay, so they started with a huge amount of women that they're looking at, and like you said, that when they were seen to experience racism, that there was a 38% higher chance of developing all different types of strokes. Ischemic, hemorrhagic, TIAs, all of them were a possibility. Now, the way that they looked at racism particularly are the ones that usually have the most stress, which are in the most quantifiable, I think, as well. So employment racism, housing racism, and interactions with the police. So if they were experiencing any one of these three, that's what allowed them to stay in the study. And then they saw what the results were. So in total, it was about over 1,600 Black women had a stroke during that period of time.
That is crazy. They actually followed 48,375 Black women for this study.
Yeah.
And as you said, from 97 to 2019. Here's a
Mm-hmm.
little piece of tidbit for those in the crew. Black adults, y'all check this out. Black adults are 50% more likely to have a stroke compared to white adults. And
Mm-hmm.
Black women are 2 times more likely to have a stroke than white women, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Wow.
Mm-hmm. So what I think is interesting about this, because my first thought was chicken or the egg, right? So is
Right.
this a case where, well, gosh, you had they might not have had cardiovascular disease or what have, but they probably were obese. They probably ended up just getting high blood pressure. But what this is suggesting, what was the cause of the obesity, of the diabetes, of the hypertension? And they're saying the toxic stress that these women experienced is what would lead to these other conditions that would lead to stroke. And to be honest, like you said, I think the most interesting part is that this study is saying that how we experience racism as a people is real. And if anything, that hit me, that was the first thing that hit me, that they were seeing that racism was real and can have significant medical problems related to it. And then again, the type of medical problem that it developed into. So, it's an issue here that we need to not ignore. The other point that really caught me was that the participants that experienced the employment, housing, and police racism lived in higher socioeconomic neighborhoods, had higher education levels, and they're less likely to live in the South.
So you're talking about a more, what is it, upper middle class group of women?
Right.
Is that
right.
what we're saying?
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting, and their perceived reason for this was that these higher educated women were more likely to put racism as a name on the experiences that they were having. Okay. And they were more likely to say that is defined as racism. And that they were more likely to file a complaint if it was a housing issue. So they were more vocal and more direct as far as what they were experiencing and putting a name on that.
So from a physician's perspective, doc, like, how do you quote unquote treat that, right? Like if you're now talking to a woman that falls in that category, as a doctor, what do you say? Take 2 pills and live in a mountain.
Yeah. Eat an apple every day, and yeah.
Right. No. You know what I'm saying? Like, how does the medical industry respond to this? Because it seems to me like now that we have these quantifiable numbers on very real people over, and this is not, like you said, this is a 20-year time span. So this is not like a quick fix type of situation. This means that this is very, very real. And one of our crew members, and I want to get your take on this, she said, wait, so Black men don't feel too? I'm confused. We're not even talking about about brothers yet. We're just talking about women in this particular case. So how does a medical professional like yourself and others respond to something like this?
So my first thought is, will my colleagues even acknowledge as racism being a real thing and that it can have, significant medical side effects, right? So that's number one, that there needs to be more education, I think, just in the medical community that racism is real. Okay. How do you combat that? The suggestion is, and I think it has a lot to do with the things that we typically talk about on this show, that we need to work harder to make sure that we do have healthier diets, that we have to make sure that we're not, heavy smokers, that we work hard to have more balanced lifestyles, not so that we can get to this wonderful kumbaya, wonderful state of being, but just to get to a state that we're not killing ourselves, okay? That society isn't killing us, that when we're talking about take adaptogens and nootropics and sleep, but we're saying this just so that you don't die.
Dang.
So that you can have this wonderful, yoga experience and spa lifestyle. We're talking about just so that you don't die. And that is the more difficult part for us. And that's for all of us. And to the comment there, this study was strictly for Black women. It was Boston University has a Black women's health study department. And so we're simply looking at this study that they completed over that period of time. It doesn't say anything about Black men at all. We can always follow up with that with other studies, but this department strictly looks at studies for Black women, and that in itself is significant. That they're putting their money and institutional focus on things that affect us specifically.
Absolutely, absolutely. Karen Connor, you say, you believe this, Karen. Black women are often left to raise children alone, suffer financial hardships, and suffer ongoing stress and strain of systemic racism in employment, housing, and healthcare. Look, we got to take another quick pause when we come forward. Let's continue the conversation about this study that is just showing us, folks, that racism is real. Racism is real. And guess what? Black women, sisters, y'all taking it. Y'all are carrying the burden of this racist society, of the racist systems, of oppressive system. Let's continue to talk a little bit more about it. Also, we're going to be checking in with the doc about MJ BizCon, the cannabis industry's largest conference, national conference, to talk about what is some of the big agenda items for the cannabis industry, especially going into 2024, and the legalization of marijuana and a whole lot of other things. So we'll have that conversation up next. So stay with us. We still got a lot of ground to cover here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Culture here on the Black Star Network. I am joined by our medical expert here on the show, Dr. Bridget, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. And folks, follow Dr. Bridget on all social media platforms at Dr. Bridget, info at drbridget.com. You can also email her there. But let me tell you, she is the perfect person to have a conversation like this about. I'm telling y'all, she's the perfect person. And when y'all read a little bit more, and this was put out by NBC News, so you can definitely check it out. But Doc, when I'm gonna share this part of the article based upon this research, and it speaks volumes about how much work that needs to be done and how there needs to be more of a partnership between the medical and the medical industry and Black people. Like there has to be something different that has to be done. And it may not come from white doctors. It just has to come from Black doctors. You are a family physician. You have been practicing medicine for many years. You've looked at alternative medicine. So you really kind of have had your hands in a lot of different healing spaces. So I want to read this piece and then I want to get your take on it. And crew, y'all share your thoughts on this as well. It said, aside from increasing the likelihood of strokes, Boston University's study found that racism may act as a psychological stressor, elevating systemic inflammation in the body. Previous findings from Boston University identified associations of perceived interpersonal racism with higher risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and even decreased subjective cognitive function, often resulting in frequent confusion and memory loss. Other studies have also linked perceived interpersonal racism with a higher risk of hypertension, hormone dysregulation, and unhealthy behaviors and lifestyles, among other issues. Damn.
Yes, that's real.
Damn.
You know, people
All of that.
Mind and body, like what our mind affects our body, right? And so when we're in a situation where we have, like I said before, toxic stress, when we have toxic stress, it will cause an inflammatory, our body is trying to work with what is going on. It causes an inflammatory reaction. And from that inflammatory reaction leads to many of the things that you had mentioned. And so it's a real medical issue that it occurs. And so that we're finally acknowledging the fact that racism is a cause of this. You know,
Can I ask you a question on that, Doc? Can I ask you a question on this?
Yes.
The DSM-4 or the DSM-5, that reference tool that is often used, I guess more in psychology, or is it just in medicine in general?
No, it's more for psychological diagnosis.
All right, that reference tool. Do we start to say, and this is, I'm being completely serious, can racism as we know it, and as this study and a few other studies corroborated on, has verified, can it be a social condition? Can it be listed in that? Is that something that you see happening?
You know,
or is that far-fetched?
You know what? My first thought is, could racism be listed as a psychological condition in the DSM-5, right? My thought is not necessarily for the one that's being subjected to it, but I do think it should be a psychological disorder for the person that is placing racism or practicing racism on others, right? These are the ones that are taking on, like they're the ones with the problem, basically, is what I'm saying.
Right.
And you might experience and suffer and have issues related to what they do. But to me, the psychological disorder is the one that is spewing the racism out on us. That's the person with the psychological disorder. You know, we're the ones that end up having a medical condition related to it, but we're not the one with the psychological issue there.
That's heavy. Tiana, one of our great crew members, she said, I didn't get hypertension. Check this out, Doc. She said, I didn't get hypertension until I started making more money.
Mm-hmm.
But she's a black woman.
Yeah, the stress. 100%.
This, Ming Lee Natasha Surge, you said everybody hurts from racism.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how true is that? Because we know we hurt.
Well, I think as a society, yes, we all hurt from racism and how it separates us, allows people to not obtain the level of sometimes opportunity success. So then as a society, we don't get to benefit from amazing people that have skill levels because we've been kind of locked out over the year. Yeah, the society suffers when we have racism.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how do we move? How do we move forward? I mean, if 38% of those women have now, as a result of racism, have now are suffering in a very real way. And then this is only for black women. We haven't even talked or touched on a situation as it relates to black men.
Mm-hmm.
How do we move forward from this? I mean, as a people, as a community, like, is there, as a medical physician, can you give us some advice, some recommendations on how to move forward? Because this is I know that for folks in the crew today, they probably like, damn, now we got to deal with this.
So I would definitely, I mean, we're always talking about eating right and having the right vitamins and all of that good stuff. Okay. And I cannot tell you the number of women in particularly, but black men and women who get all the best education and are working in corporate America. And now they are running a gym or a store, or they become entrepreneurs, right? I mean, I'm not that far from that. I still do practice regular medicine, but I left corporate medicine, big pharma medicine for a reason, because I never saw them seeing my worth. And I felt like I always had to fight for it. And so what I'm seeing is more and more of us that have done what our parents asked us to do and got the higher education tend to be fleeing and working in in areas that are less stressful or that are more supportive of just the Black community. And so in some ways, I say that we need to be able to support these young people that are making those choices. We need to have more Black Wall Streets, and so that we can create environments that are for us and by us and support us, mentally, physically, emotionally, so we don't have to always deal with these issues. And I'm not saying that we isolate ourselves, but there should be opportunities for us to be successful and not have to, and keep our talents in-house, and so that we can benefit from them. But at the end of the day, we have to get the right skill set and also be willing to take the breaks and take a pause to know how to deal with the stressors that society puts on us.
And the crazy part, and Doc, the crazy part about this, before we take our next pause, the crazy part about this is, as much as we are starting to see more and more like data and information about stuff like this, we still have it in our mind and we pass it on to our children that as long as you ascend in this system of things, regardless of which industry you're in, that life will get easier, that life will get better. I mean, we still promote this idea, but this goes to show you that the higher up we go, it's like the old saying, more money, more problems, right?
Money, more problems. Done. That's it. That's true.
So do we teach our children? What do we say to the children that want to be the next whoever? What do we say to the children? Because it's and I mean, I don't want to simplify it, because I know that there are a lot of factors and complexities. But it's like the higher you become, the bigger you are as a Black person, the more successful you get, it's literally killing you.
Right. So I think what we do is we still tell our children to follow their passion. We still tell them to do, because we cannot let anyone keep us in a box. right? So whatever their passion is, they should follow it, but we have to make sure they're equipped to deal with the society that we're sending them out into, that we have good support systems for them, that we have legally the correct opportunities, that if we have an issue, we know who we need to go to. But this is a reality that we deal with. We need to teach our families how to be more balanced and to pull away and take the breaks and make sure that we spend time with the people that actually love us and have those family reunions. And if you don't do the reunion, do the monthly Zoom call with everybody in the family. We need to find ways to have our children see images that reflect and support and keep them going. Because if we just say, oh, I dealt with it, you can deal with it, that's not necessarily true.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. Look, we're going to take another quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to continue the conversation with the doc, and she's going to tell us about the latest happenings with the MJ BizCon. This is the major conference for the cannabis industry. Dr. Bridget was there. She was on a few panels. Y'all can follow her on social media and see all of the work she was putting in over the weekend in Las Vegas. And more importantly, what's on the agenda? What are some of the big priorities? And where do Black entrepreneurs go in this next step of the green economy, as they call it? So stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20036-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Checking in with my sister and our doctor on the show, Dr. Bridget. And Dr. Bridget has been moving and shaking all around the country. And she was just at the premier marijuana and cannabis conference, MJ BizCon, that took place November 28th through December the 1st in Las Vegas, Nevada. And this is the 12th year for the conference. And this year's theme was Dare to Grow, Cannabis Culture Community Connections. And Dr. Bridget, I know you posted a couple of clips on your social where you were on.
I'm just barely getting started. I'm slow with the social media thing, I'll be honest.
I get it. Trust me, I get it. But you were on a couple of panels.
Yes.
You were in part of the big conversations. But talk to us, like, for those who aren't familiar with this gathering, what is this thing all about?
So the Marijuana Business Conference, they do it every November or so in Las Vegas. This is the 12th year. We're talking about 30,000 people from all over the world come in to Vegas, mainly business to business, but there are different aspects of it as well. And they really come together for to make bigger deals, to find different products, to meet the connections that might make all the difference. And so it's a huge, huge just undertaking. Last year was my first time going. Very few physicians, and I'm just saying few because I didn't meet any, but I'm going to assume they were there, were in the space. And I had the opportunity to speak on a significant panel. And like I said, with 30,000 people, to be able even to get the opportunity to speak is quite an honor. And so I was on the panel for creating and sustaining a just and equitable cannabis industry. And we had, Martin Luther King Jr. III, Hope Wiseman, who's the youngest person to open a dispensary in the U.S., Carlando Mitchell, who owns Fifth House Farms out of Washington, Omari Anderson from Bester Lemonade, myself, and Tamika Mallory, who was recognized civil rights and activist, who's the youngest executive director for the National Action Network, as well as one of the coordinators for the Women's March on Washington. So an amazing, amazing collection of people, along with the director for the UFCW, because we talk a lot about unionizing and supporting people that are working in this industry. It's like industry, just like any place else. And what an incredible opportunity it took a long time to be able to get Black voices on the stage at MJ BizCon. And so it's an honor to be a part, I think, of the largest amount of talks that they had around social equity and opportunities for Black and brown people. So definitely a great opportunity. On top of that, we're working with Dreams and the Cheech and Chong Cannabis brand, and we did our first author assembly for the Courage in Cannabis books. So authors came in from all over the country. We're from 19 different states for a gathering to celebrate the stories that make cannabis possible.
Okay. All right. So this is the conference that, like you said, that we're breaking into. I mean, even though it has taken a little minute, this is the 12th year for the conference, but the fact is that it is like we're making our presence known. What are some of the big agenda items? Because if you go into the website for MJ BizCon, you know, it talks about a number of things for cultivators, manufacturers, retailers. Did you find to be some of the 2 or 3 top concerns or issues or agenda items that relates to Black America?
Number one, I think it's just opportunity, right? Because a lot of what makes the cannabis industry run in most pockets of the US are large MSOs. MSOs mean multi-state operators. These are huge companies owned by the richest of the rich. Sometimes they're even out of the country, and they kind of come into every state and kind of take over the industry in those states. And so that doesn't leave often a lot of space for smaller groups to get involved, to have the opportunity for generational wealth, and to be able to just be entrepreneurs, even more in the more ancillary aspects of the industry. There's actually an issue going on now in New York that some of the large companies are blocking the opportunity for the physician to see their regular patient because they're kind of pouncing on the patients and giving them dirt prices for little service to pull them away from their doctors that they've been seeing. And so it just doesn't give a lot of opportunity for the smaller guy. So a lot of the conversation had to do with, is there opportunities for Black people in the cannabis space? And what are they basically? You know, are they ancillary? Are they actually owning dispensaries or doing cultivation? Where is the education coming from? Where's the support? A lot of states have social equity lotteries where there's opportunity, the opportunity is given to Black people. But because of the complexities of actually getting to the point of opening, sometimes these people end up selling their license to some of these larger groups before they ever get started because of the support system is not there to get through and jump through the hoops.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we got a few moments left, Doc, but I want to kind of get your take on this. What was something that you gathered that you kind of, I'm gonna hold on to this and plan to work on moving forward until the next conference in November.
So I definitely think that there are new spaces for new research and for us to look at how we approach medical cannabis in even more ways. We've looked at even DNA testing. They've looked at creating, actually scientifically creating the strains that will work specifically for certain disorders. And so those are things that I'm definitely going to be spending more time on and researching. Also looking at how we can really push our agenda as Courage in Cannabis, where we're taking those stories and bringing in every aspect, the legacy story, the educator, the patient, what have you, and seeing how we can help other groups get their voices out so that they can also be less isolated and actually acquire more education.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I know over the next few weeks, as you get in your mind right and processing everything that you gather from the conference, I would like to talk about this more. Really just having a more robust discussion because it's not just about smoking weed, right?
No.
I mean, that's on a very low end. And I think that if for those who may not be as informed about this industry, the work that you do, there are so many other factors, and there's a lot of different complexities to this. It's because I know that for a lot of our people, it's a moral thing, right? Like, oh, if you do use cannabis, then that means that something is inherently wrong with you as a person, or we don't talk about the medicinal benefits of it, right? People use it for a whole lot of other reasons. And of course, you're talking about it from the business side in terms of finding some level of equity in all of this. So there are a lot of things, Doc, that I know that you can kind of speak to that I would love to kind of delve a little bit deeper into as we talk about. But was there any speaker that people should know about, any particular topic that you would recommend that people should start looking at as we have these conversations?
Well, I mean, there's no way to deny the fact that you have someone like Tamika Mallory coming in, who's a civil rights activist and community organizer. What is she doing at the cannabis conference? When you have someone like Martin Luther King Jr. III, what's he doing at the cannabis? And keep in mind, people, this is not a cannabis festival, where people are all, hanging.
It's not like Woodstock. It's not like Woodstock. You're just out there hanging out and smoking. No. Right.
No, this is business and it's science, and it's the biggest one of the year where everybody's really coming together. And so I think if those two people in particular being there doesn't say, look, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, and our Black leaders are now looking at what does cannabis really mean for us, I think their presence there meant a lot. And so we all have our opinions at some point or another about what this is, but things are evolving one way or another. And if we're not careful, they're not going to evolve in the way that we want. So whether you're for it or against it, it's really time to learn something about it, because it will be in our communities. It will be with our children. It will be with our senior community. And we want people to use it in the best way possible that gets them healthier and doesn't slow them down and doesn't cause other issues for them. So, at this point, you can't deny it anymore, and it's worth having a conversation about.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Dr. Bridget, I always appreciate you. Again, folks, we're going to dive deeper into the courage and cannabis space and having more conversations. But of course, our medical expert here on the culture is Dr. Bridget. I don't like to have any conversation about health and wellness and medicine without having my sister on. So y'all make sure y'all do y'all due diligence. Follow her on all her social media platforms, and let's stay connected to what the great work that Dr. Bridget is doing each and every day for the culture. Doc, thank you so much. I truly appreciate you. Look forward to
Absolutely.
seeing you next week.
Thank you so much, Farajii.
Thank you. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you for being a part of the conversation. Man, the chat was jumping today. So big shout out to you, crew, for keeping the conversation going and having a lot of discussion about the ski mask, about the heart stroke piece, even about cannabis. A lot of great conversations, and that's what we do here on the culture. We want to have these discussions, put it out there for us to have a discussion about amongst ourselves, and hopefully find some understanding and get to some resolution. So big shout out to all of you for being a part of the culture crew for the day. That's going to do it for us. I want to thank my dynamic production team. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Make sure y'all stick around. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Go to our website, download the app for free on all of your devices. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And if you can, give something to put in the pot to continue to power us, to invest in us, to take this thing to the next level. All of those who have given something, I cannot thank you enough. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you so, so much for your donation because it means a lot. And you might say, only put in $5 or $10, but guess what? You believed in the mission that we are embarked upon so much that you put something in the pot. And so it's not the amount, it's the intention behind the amount that makes all the difference in the world. So I thank you so much for your support of us here at Black Star Network. Make sure you also follow me on social media. You can find me at the real Farajii on Instagram. I'm at Farajii on Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter, on X. Threads, I'm at the real Farajii on Facebook at Farajii Muhammad, and I love to connect with you. All right, stay tuned. Up next is RMU. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture, right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.